I don't see Latahan's. I don't see Latahan on the screen. Gilbert Latahan, who is going to do the welcoming? Just unmute, Marina. Just unmute, Councillor. And can we see a bit of social distancing there?
Thank you. Thank you.
We are going to give you the opportunity to do the welcoming. I hope you've got a program in front of you, but we will also acknowledge our guest house speakers. Over to you, District.
Honorable, is Mr. Mayor.
Chair of the session. The Mayor. The Mayor.
Yes. Can we call us?
He's doing the welcoming. Yeah.
Please,
the Mayor.
Just get a welcoming by the Executive Mayor, Honorable Paulus Mgcawu. Any reason why the Mayor is not there, Councillor?
Miss.
Ja, die Deputy Chairperson soek je om u welkom te doen.
Sorry?
He's still busy, Deputy Chair. He's still busy.
We are already half an hour late with our program. As we are waiting for the Mayor to officially welcome us, let me then start to give some few opening words, and he will be doing the welcoming address. Honorable participants, this will be the second session since we have actually committed last year at the Women's Parliament in August, at the end of August, to have a review of the Women's Charter for Effective Equality. We had a successful event, physical event in Guguletu, near to the end of 2019. And after that, in actual fact, our program had to be redirected because of the COVID-19 and other issues that actually came up, but particularly the pandemic that is currently plaguing us as a country. So we had to redirect our focus and also wait for guidance as to how Parliament's program is going to be executed. And we are now here for the first session in 2020. And this session will be in Uppington, or we will in ZFM with Uppington as the main town, where we will be hosting this session. Now, I think we will be giving a broader context of the session as we continue. But as our invited guest, we are having this. We are also having the Minister of Women, Children and People with Disabilities. We also invited Professor Daniel Plaatjes, the Chairperson of the Sffc, and we have invited several participants, of which as we continue, we will be able to get information from the office as to who of our guests are present. So, honorable participants, I think with that all set, we can start with, if the Mayor is ready also, please, can we just have the Mayor to address us, please. Hello. Hello.
Say hello, Chair. What say that?
Brother,
No practice it as an hello, Chair.
Hello. I don't know what. I don't know what happened to my sound here.
That's it. No, she was still, I think she was still in.
the speaker answered the thoroughly award.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Deputy Chair, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
You're
Okay,
audible.
thank you. So, the mayor ready? Is the mayor ready?
I believe the mayor is
What's
ready. Deputy Chair,
Okay,
the mayor is ready.
yes, unmute him so that he can speak and welcome us, please.
He is unmuted.
He can speak. Let him continue.
Yeah.
Can you- I can hear you. I just hope the other participants can.
Sorry, Chairperson, I can't hear a thing.
Deputy Chair,
Yes.
the mayor is not audible at all. If you can please just move closer to the laptop, the device that they're using.
I'm sure you can hear. Okay.
This meeting takes place in the time
Yes.
that South Africa is having
Sounds fine
a
now.
huge challenge of COVID-19.
Yes.
But it is within us to make sure that we overcome this COVID-19. COVID-19 measures and the importance role women must play. Employment opportunities to be provided and preference to the women. Leadership position to be practically implemented on the basis of 50-50. Acknowledgement of the contribution made by women in the struggle for economic freedom and equal opportunities. Empowerment of women in the engineering, finance, and artisan field. Encourage women, women. And on those words, I would like to say you are all welcome in our district, ZFM, Mgcawu municipality. I thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, Thank you to the mayor, the honorable Paul Mgcawu, for that welcome. For the better part, you were not audible, but I think we need to continue because already we have started very late. Let me start by just giving, just put the meeting into context. Honorable Minister of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities, members of Parliament, our chairperson of Salga or representative of Salga, district mayor, local mayors, chairperson of the Sffc, Statistician General, and other invited guests. 2019, already as we have been saying several times, marked the 25 years since the adoption of the 1994 Women's Charter for Effective Equality. This milestone necessitated a 25-year review of the entire women's rights in order to take stock of and assess the achievements garnered since 1994. The objective was also to critically assess the systemic weaknesses that continue to impede the realization of gender equality in South Africa. This year, 2020, also marks the 25th anniversary of the Base Platform of Action. It was intended to be a groundbreaking for gender equality. Now, with the state of the COVID-19 pandemic, even the limited gains made in the past are at risk of being eroded. The pandemic is deepening pre-existing inequalities, exposing vulnerabilities in social, political, and economic systems, which continue to amplify the impact of the pandemic on women. Across every sphere, from health to the economy, security to social protection, the impact of COVID-19 is acutely exacerbated for women and girls simply by virtue of their gender. The policy brief by the United Nations on the impact of COVID-19 on women states the following, and I quote, as the COVID-19 pandemic deepens economic and social stress, coupled with restricted movement and social isolation measures, gender-based violence is increasing exponentially. Many women have been forced to lock down at home with their abuse. At the same time, services to support survivors of gender-based violence are being disrupted or made inaccessible. For the coming months, we will be crisscrossing the country, district by district, although it being virtually. If the circumstances allow, it will be physically, on the very specific challenges that women are facing at each district and locality. We will seek to find ways of turning theory into practice and to change gender relations for the better. How we will achieve this is to embark on a review process which will be under by a strong reform span each generation has relative obscurity. The company's mission close quote. This generation is now sure that the recommendations that will come out of this process form the basis of undertaking a targeted and focused law reform process under each article of the Charter in order to positively change the material condition of women. As we embark on this discussion today, may we remember, while various mechanisms exist to make gender responses mandatory, these mechanisms are often fragmented and lack coherence and broad-based political support. There is really a lack of coherent policies, programs, systems, and procedures to promote gender-responsive policy, research, planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing in South Africa. We have brought you here, honorable participants, to assist us in finding lasting solutions. And I thank you very much. I think with that said and done, we will have to continue, and we will request that we see and we will sorry sorry, I spoke a lot. Can you assist me, Sebu? Can you assist me, Sebu?
Yes, ma'am. The next person on the program is the Statistician General, who will give us the next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. And indeed, let me greet the Minister and greet members of honorable members as well as the Chairperson of the FFC. And let me say, all protocols observed. Let us start the presentation of Statistics South Africa with an understanding that most data is disaggregated largely at national and provincial level, and it doesn't disaggregate as much to district as well as to local government. However, we will try and pick up a few issues that relate to the district that we're looking at, the district of ZF, Mgcawu, and of course we look at the issues of gender in particular. Let us look at the next slide. The population of South Africa as of 1st July 2019 was 58.78 million. We are yet to continue and pick up what is happening as of 1st July this year. Let us look at the next slide. As we are talking, about 15 million seats in Gauteng, 11.3 million seats in KwaZulu-Natal, and of course the Western Cape accounts for 6.84 million. And the Northern Cape, as usual, is sitting with the lowest population size, population mass, while it sits with the highest land mass. Now, having said that, 60% of the population of the country is accounted for by Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. So the Northern Cape only accounts for 2.2%. Let us look at the next slide. The ZF Mgcawu district is sitting at a population of about 277,000 persons. So if we understand the Northern Cape, we are talking about 1.2 million. So if we are talking about 1.2 million, this district only accounts for about 1 in 6 persons. So for every 6 persons you find in the Northern Cape, every 1 person is found in this district. Let us look at as is in terms of projections or as estimated, we are saying that this district is sitting with about 50.1% male persons and about 49.9% females. It's one of the rarest cases where you find that women are in lesser numbers. Generally, women account for 52% in our population and men account for 48%. Let us look at the next slide. In the district, we are looking at service delivery and we are saying that 92%, that is 91.6% of households in ZF Mgcawu had the main source of water for drinking delivered via piped connection as of 2016. And this is what we collected from our large sample survey called community survey. And of those, households that had flush toilets or chemical toilets accounted for 72%, and 87% of the households were connected to a source of main source of electricity, connectivity as electricity. Let us go to the next slide. We are saying that around 40% of the Northern Cape population is considered poor. And this is based on the lower line or lower bound poverty line. This is manimetric, and we are talking of about your $2 a day. And this is very critical that we say it's manimetric. Manimetric doesn't include interventions of government in the form of feeding scheme and the like, because those ones, you can't quantify them at household level. You can only quantify them at the personal level and at an institution level that is giving such services. And this manimetric is critical for purposes of comparisons with other nations in the world. Next slide. We are saying that the poverty line in terms of monetary terms, the lower bound, and why are we using the lower bound? It's because the lower bound is critical in a sense that it has been adopted by the National Development Plan as a measure of poverty. And the lower bound is in the middle. That is a level or a threshold at which people choose between food and important non-food items, such as clothes and others. Whereas the upper bound right at the top is where people can afford a bit of minimum desired lifestyles, like affording a cell phone. The lower bound, the lowest line, which is the food poverty line, is for people who have, without this money, 561 rand per person per month, cannot afford to buy the minimum food required or for calories required for a human being to survive a day. Now, the lower bound poverty line that we are tracking from the NDP is 810 rands per person per month. Let us look at the next slide. In terms of those that were poor as of 2015, it's about 41%, and we are using the lower bound because that's what the NDP is tracking. And we are using 2015 because Statistician doesn't have money or hasn't had money to go and collect any other poverty numbers since 2015. And this is critical because the national line is sitting at 40%, and the Northern Cape is just 0.7%, sitting at 40.7%. It's just 0.7% above the national average. Let us go to the next slide. We are saying that in terms of households that are poor, in terms of a share, households headed by women were much more poorer in the Northern Cape than households headed by men, as is firstly all over the country, as well as is all over the world. Households headed by women are always much more poorer, yet women are the ones who are driving issues of poverty alleviation right from the household level. No mother would go and eat food before her children eat food. Next slide. Let us look at the levels of education. And we are saying that in terms of levels of education, 59.7% of individuals with no formal education were poorer compared to those that had post-matric qualification. Now, let us go back to the slide. If we look at the right-hand side, we see that those who have no schooling in the Northern Cape are much more poorer. That is 60% of those, whereas those who have higher than matric, the gray part on the right-hand side, are sitting at 6%, showing that education is very critical in beating poverty. Let's go to the next slide. I'll need to move a bit faster now for purposes of time. Let's go to the next one. Here we are looking at multidimensional poverty. Just show the whole slide, please. Here we are looking at multidimensional poverty. And in the world, or all over the world, multidimensional poverty looks at health, education, and living standards. Those are the three levels. When you don't have those three, you are considered to be poor. And we have put subcategories of each of them. Look at living standards. Do you have electricity for lighting? If you don't have, then you are poor. If you don't have electricity for heating, you are poor. Something like that. But each of them has their own weight in which they actually demonstrate their ability to make someone poor. But in South Africa, we have added economic activity to look at unemployment as a contributor to poverty, which makes us not to talk of what we call the MPI, Multidimensional Poverty Index, as in the global sense, but we talk about the Ssfc, which is the South African Multidimensional Poverty. Now, let us go to the next slide. The South African Multidimensional Poverty Index, Ssfc, is sitting at 7%. And in this regard, we are saying that as of 2016, the Ssfc headcount poverty for Sffc Mgcawu stood at 5.3% against the national average of 7%, which means that poverty in Sffc Mgcawu was actually a district was much more lower than the national average. The 7% that we are talking about is comparable to global developments that we see everywhere in the world. Actually, in the world, the global trends are sitting at 8%, meaning that our poverty levels in South Africa are relatively better than others. Let's go to the next slide. What are the drivers of multidimensional poverty? I will talk to two because they contribute more than any other thing. If we look at child mortality at the level, school attendance, type of dwelling, they don't contribute much. But right at the top, unemployment contributes 52%, while years of schooling contribute 11%. And we've been tracking this since 2001, 2011, and 2016. Unemployment in 2001 was contributing about 33%, if we look at the top bars there. But as of 2016, it contributed 52%. So when we take the 52% plus the 11% of education, education and unemployment contributed 63% to poverty in South Africa. And those are your biggest drivers. Next slide. Let's go to the next slide again. Yes, we are saying that the national Gini coefficient is sitting at 0.65%. The lower the number, the more equal people are. That is, if people are poor, the more equal they are. If people are rich, the more equal they are. The higher the number, like we see in 2006, where we're sitting at 0.67, it means that people were less equal in 2006, but by 2016, they were more equal. Let us look at the next slide. Now we are looking at male and female, and we are comparing here male and female for the country. We are saying that generally, males are much more unequal compared to females. As we can see that in 2015, my apologies, males were sitting at 0.64 and females were sitting at 0.61. But there's a catch here. Women are, while they are more equal while they are much more poorer than men. So it's like when you go to my village where everyone is poor, we can say that society, the Gini coefficient is lower because all of them are equal. There's no comparison that one is rich, that one is poor. Whereas if you take people from my village and put them in Senten, they would all of a sudden find themselves in a very unequal society. So while we are saying women, their Gini coefficient is lower, meaning that women are much more equal in their status of poverty or in their status of whatever was that bit above poverty they call themselves, they are still less than men in terms of the resources they have. Next slide. We are saying that the Northern Cape on the right-hand side tended to be remaining flat between 2015 and 2016, meaning that poverty tended to decline. And we see these tendencies in the Northern Cape and in Mpumalanga. If we look at Mpumalanga, for example, the second one from the right-hand side, poverty has been declining. So is Northern Cape, but Northern Cape, while it has been declining, it also flattened. But let us look at Limpopo, for example, and the Eastern Cape, those ones in red. Those ones, while poverty was declining between 2009 and 2011, it started rising sharply. We can see they are actually showing a tick upwards as of 2015. Next slide. In terms of the grants, and we can't go down to district level, and maybe in terms of income, let us not talk grants for starters, let's talk income. We are saying that the gray part on the left-hand side is the main source of income as salaries. Now, I want to contrast the gray part and the yellow part or orange part, whatever we call it. I'm not very good with colors, so please pardon me. But perhaps the yellow color, because we still have something that looks like oranges. Let's take the yellow color and the gray color. Let us take the Eastern Cape, for example, right from the top. We can see that in the Eastern Cape, there are more people in yellow who rely on grants. That's about 35%. When we compare it with the Northern Cape, just below it. In the Northern Cape, the people in yellow are much more lesser, sitting at 30%. Whereas the people earning salaries, that is the gray part on the left-hand side, are actually relatively better than places like Limpopo and the Eastern Cape. While it's sitting at 52% for the Northern Cape, we can see that it's less than the national average, which is sitting down there at 59% of people that are salaried. So the more the province has people dependent on remittances and grants, it means that that province is not sufficiently enough to cater for its people to come out of poverty, because they rely on the state to look after them. If they are not relying on the state, they rely on remittances that we send money to them every month. Let's go to the next slide. In this slide, we are showing access to improved sanitation. I want us to take the Northern Cape, which is the top on the right-hand side. That is the top line. We can see that in the Northern Cape, there's a blue line running at the top from 75.5% in 2002 to 90%. So access to improved sanitation has been above the national average. As we can see, the national average is the dotted line running below the blue line of the Northern Cape. Let us go to Limpopo, for example, right at the bottom on the right-hand side. We can see that the red line is actually below the dotted line, meaning that Limpopo is actually struggling below the national average. Next slide. Here we are talking about, going back a bit, just one more slide back. Here we are talking about connections to electricity. Again, let us look at the Northern Cape. It's the middle one. It's in the middle row, and it's in the center. So it's the middle in the middle row, Northern Cape. We can see that still on connections to electricity, it has always been above the national average, where it started at 88.5% in 2002, but it has declined a bit to about 87.9%. And what makes it decline? It's the increase in the number of households that are occurring. And we can see it more in Gauteng, right at the bottom right-hand side, where we see a red color there, where we see Gauteng is actually seated with a large number of households coming into Gauteng. Next slide. One thing we can say readily is that women remain very vulnerable in our country, and they are much more affected by challenges of poverty, risk to poverty, social exclusion from the general population. Next slide. We are saying that female-headed households in the Northern Cape do not have an employed household member. And that's about 32%. We are saying that 31.9%, that is about 32%, 39.9%, that is closer to 32%. And we can see right at where the Northern Cape is. We have put that on the right-hand side, we have put the dotted yellow line to show where it is. 31.9% do not have a working member or an employed member. And these are households headed by women. Whereas if we look still in the Northern Cape, male-headed households, only 23% didn't have an employed member. So 23% versus 32%, it means men are still more at an advantage. Households headed by men are more at an advantage in the Northern Cape, as is all over the country. All over the country, households headed by men are much more at an advantage of having a worker or a person employed in the house as compared to households headed by a woman. Let's go to the next slide. In the next slide, we are saying that women of 16 years above in the Northern Cape are more than double the national average in relation to being victims of assault. So let us look at the Northern Cape. It's sitting at a much more higher compared than any other province in relation to women being victims of abuse in the form of assault. And here we're only talking about assault, not talking about other forms of abuse. And if we look at the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Gauteng, and KZN, they are below the national average, whereas Northern Cape, Western Cape, Northwest, and the Free State are above the national average. As we can see, all those ones on the right-hand side are above the red dotted line. Next slide. In this regard, we are saying the Northern Cape with only about 81% functional literacy on females lags behind than the national average. And we can see the Northern Cape right at lowest from the bottom is sitting at about 81%, 81.2% to be exact, on functional literacy. Whereas if we look at Gauteng, it's sitting at 92.9%. Actually, Gauteng is sitting about 11 percentage points above the Northern Cape. The Northern Cape only sits above the Eastern Cape in terms of functional literacy levels of females. So education. And in the previous slide where we have indicated that poverty and employment are greater contributors to poverty, unemployment and education are greater contributors to poverty. Now we are seeing that the Northern Cape has challenges of education, functional literacy amongst females. It also has challenges of employment, whereas we can see that a female-headed household has no working person. Those are enough to brew an environment where women would be much more poorer in the Northern Cape. Next slide. This slide is Chairperson says Ndihela Kwala. This is a standard letter through which we used to write and conclude our letters for our mothers who were illiterate, writing to our fathers who were migrant workers in Johannesburg. Our mothers couldn't end a letter with "I miss you" writing to their husbands. They couldn't finish a letter with "I love you" writing to their husband. The standard conclusion of a letter was Ndihela Kwala, like ndiketa khona apha ngoku, like just ndiphelela hanepho ngachivenda, all these things. Now, Chairperson, never in our lifetime should we allow women or any section of the society, be it children or otherwise, to be so excluded, including with functional literacy, that they cannot even express themselves, even on matters where they should express the most, like whether they are poor or they need a job, or they want to express their own love for one another. Chairperson, the next slide, if we look at it, is blank. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maluleka. Thank you for always trying to, when you present, make us feel at peace and really feel that the information that you have actually shared with us is very, very reliable. We are going to continue with our program, and I just want to get from the host official if our next speaker is available.
Deputy Chair, Professor Plaik is there to attend another Zoom meeting, so he's not available, but he has indicated that he will be able to join us for the other sessions as we continue to work through the other provinces.
So who are we going to take next now?
Next now is
Can we then take the
Councillor.
minister?
We can take the minister if you so wish, ma'am.
That was from the progressive movement. Mr. Mkhize, or the elected person.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. You have really had a long day. Allow me just to acknowledge the Executive Mayor of Mgcawu District. Also, of course, to thank the Statistician General, Mr. Maluleke, for making my life very easy. And generally to acknowledge all honorable members. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, I was asked, for honorable members who don't know me, I'm the Deputy Minister in the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. I'm the Deputy Minister to Minister Maite. So I was asked to reflect.
Chairperson of the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa.
Yes, yes. I'm the national convener, which is really a chairpersonship or the presidency of the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa. Yes, which was established in 2006 with the sole purpose of mobilizing women of South Africa and to unite them to continue the tackling the social ills in our society, as well as we have just had the description in numbers. But in reality, it's about warm bodies, real people and families. So the focus has been to continue on the footsteps of the women of 1954. When they came up with the Women's Charter, they mobilized women, they consolidated, they had solidarity, and they united women around common issues. The same happened in 1994 during the second Women's Charter. Of course, women had to be mobilized around the cause so that they are unanimous and they speak on, in one voice. The Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa has a presence at a national level where I'm sitting, but we also have provincial conveners who, in terms of the constitution, are expected to have district focal point and also focal point at a local level. So the whole idea is that if we want to tackle poverty, unemployment, and inequality in society in general, as you have heard in numbers, women have to be at the center of the struggle. I just want to reflect briefly on where we are today. I appreciate that the Deputy Chair, when opening, made some remarks which makes my life easier. The process of reviewing today the Women's Charter, or the Women's Charters, as I've mentioned, is an opportune moment to also reflect on how far the country has come in implementing commitments made 25 years ago in Beijing. But also we have an opportunity to reflect on new opportunities. Like this year, was it not for COVID-19, the UN had come up with a campaign of which we immediately joined hands to look at generational equality campaign, which seek to determine the national agenda for gender, the country, for taking forward the country towards 2030, which will mean it's an opportunity to review gains made with the, when we came up with the charters that I've referred to, but also to use a different strategy. And of course, this is aligned to the campaign that also South Africa is a signatory to, the target set for achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The SDG number 5 in particular focuses on women's empowerment and gender equality. So these new campaigns, they are calling for the global call for generational equality to say, what do we do between now and 2030 so that by then would have achieved equality goals for women and girls, picking up at the age of 15 years upwards of younger generation to be our allies and to bring new energy in the campaign. But you see, also, when we talk about collectively realizing women's rights, it is important to reflect a bit on current challenges that we have. At the moment, we are struggling with demand for equal pay. You heard that male-headed families, they do better, but it doesn't mean women are not in a workplace. The advantage the men have is that there'll be different reasons why they end up with a higher salary. Whether they have less experience, there will be other opportunities in a male-dominated patriarchal society that end up advantaging them. Also, issues that we are struggling with, equal sharing of unpaid care and domestic work. Most women have had to triple up. They have to make sure they go to work, they look after children, and generally play a critical role at a community level, assisting in terms of social protection. The bigger one, the biggest elephant in the room is how to end sexual harassment at a workplace, places of worship, in a family setting where there are cases of incest, and in society in general. But it's not only sexual harassment, but also it's violations like rape, gender-based violence, femicide. So those are current issues that are big, and they further stifle progress that women are trying to make to move forward to be respected citizens. Honorable Chairperson, there are also other culture-linked practices that our women are struggling with, like in cases of ukutwala, where younger women will be taken by older men under the guise of love, and they are sexually exploited, and they leave school early, and they become perpetually dependent on their abusers, and they end up getting children quite early and exposed to all sorts of risks. I'm not going to mention all of them, but I just wanted to reflect that our cultures also shouldn't be holy cows. We should be vigilant and constantly question the practices that are done under the big word, our culture is this. Also, in reviewing where we come from since the Women's Charter of 1954, we need to take a careful look at the national gender machinery, which was put in place in a democratic setting to make sure that it's a bigger overarching agenda which will drive this gender equality struggle that women are in. In this regard, it is therefore critical that we look at the repositioning of the national gender machinery in the country in such a way that we're able to look at all the key players. When talking to players within the department and outside in the women's network, it has become clear that the driving of the national gender machinery is beyond just the Department of Women. It calls for a chairpersonship of the department, parliament, including the Commission for Gender Equality. So I think, Chairperson, beyond the meetings we are holding, we have at a different level, we have to look at that because it's an important overarching body where women could be mobilized at different levels and begin to address critical issues. Within the umbrella of the national gender machinery, we also have civil society, of course, those who are organized within the progressive women's movement of South Africa. For instance, we have the unions, we have SANCO, we have women organized from the church, younger women, the artists, and so on. So we have to revive the national gender machinery as a collective and see whether it can help us to get quicker to where we want to be. The last opportunity I want to tap, especially for progressive women's movement and other women's formation, is that since government has come up with the district development model, we have one more opportunity to consolidate our agenda at that level, because the concept of the district development model is about government working in partnership at that level with civil society, private sector, and all other relevant players. And I think the issue of gender equality could be tackled also within that setting, where the projects, the resources will be put together for different players to be able to evaluate impact on an ongoing basis. It takes us away from a fragmented approach. It takes us away from a silo mentality. And I think it's possible to tackle even the patriarchal mindset at that level and be able to account at a measurable district level as to what progress are we making. I didn't say much about other vulnerable groups of women, like women from the sector of persons with disability. They face more challenges. Also, women in rural areas, their voices are often not in the room. As we are talking now, Deputy Chairperson, they are not connected. They suffer in silence, away from us all. I think it's like a village that often Mr. Maluleke, our general statistician, always portrayed to us, where they would write letters and say, "Mphelela lapho." So I thank you for an opportunity, and the progressive women's movement will be happy to work very closely with honorable members within the NCOP and mayors at a district level beyond our provinces to make sure that we use the decade to make significant gains as women. I do believe the battle is winnable, Deputy Chairperson, with your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. much, Honorable Kise. I have to say you are a deputy minister, but prime minister is minister. And I think you have been working with us on this, and we really appreciate it a lot. For now, we will request then that the district must make the presentation that will be presented by the Honorable Executive Mayor or his delegated official, so that we can just have that. And after that, if Salga is present, we will give Salga to make the district mayor.
Thank you, Honorable DS, Member Sylvia Lucas. As the district, we are having a special program that is within the office of the mayor that deals with women issues, of which we are also having an official that works there. And this program, it's a funded, it's within the funded budget of the district. And we are having a wellness program within the workplace. And the weaknesses maybe that we are having as the district is that our key position or senior positions, we don't have a woman, but we are having 4 members of the mayoral committee who are women. That is 4 versus 1. And we can also proudly say is that within our local municipalities, we are having 2 women that are speakers, that is David Chairperson and Mgcawu. Also 2 mayors that are local from B municipalities, that is your Katelopili municipality and Tsantsabane, my sisters. And if you look within these municipalities, within the district, we will start with Katelopili. Within the key position in Katelopili, we are having the CFO, which is a woman. We are having a senior cooperative manager, which is a woman. Your Mgcawu, it's also the same CFO and cooperative. Your David Chairperson, it's also the same. It's only Tsantsabane and Taste, of which we think in future we will be having them. But nevertheless, I must also indicate and mention the assistant that ZFM have even given assistant within the women in business. As ZFM, we are proudly to highlight that even though the district municipality does not have financial masses to assist the SMMEs financially, but have a fundamental LED and tourism team whose doors are always open to assist SMMEs cooperative in terms of a registration of their businesses, as well as assisting them to get funding from the relevant stakeholders. It will be unfair if we don't give credit to all the local municipalities within the district, as they make our work easy in assisting us to get the relevant information out of the SMMEs and cooperative in their respective municipalities. Women in business are one of our SMMEs and cooperative in the priorities as a district municipality, and therefore are front runners in empowering women in business. Below, we can also present today and maybe mention some of the businesses that are run by women or where the district have also given assistance. Firstly, we are having a business that is TJ Hot Food Cafe, which is Miss Johanna Mayor. We assisted to register her Chisanyama. This Chisanyama has been operational for 4 years. Strelitzia Guest House, Miss Regina Maasdorp get funding to upgrade the guest house from Department of Economic and Tourism to upgrade their property through the assistance of the LED and tourism unit. Kalahari Info Tentel Camp, Miss Getruda Boot. These are some of the businesses that the district can proudly mention that we have assisted them with their businesses, but I've only mentioned few, but they are not the one. We can safely say that our LED and tourism unit have assisted the above mentioned SMEs and cooperatives to the best of their abilities to be successfully operationally with the assistance of the local municipality. Hence, we are saying we are striving and we will always make sure that our women, we are supporting them in all time. Siyabathanda, sizobavikela, sizobakhusela ngomama bethu. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Dankie, achtbare uitvoerende burgemeester Twega. Dankie vir jou inset. Ons sal dan nou vir Salga 'n geleentheid gee en ons sal give the floor to someone that is very serious about the issues of women that have been working with us all the time throughout in our program. We will give over to her to make an input on behalf of Salga. Over to Salga.
Good afternoon. Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Sister Andy.
Hello, good afternoon, Deputy Chair of the NCOP.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. As much as I'm struggling here with the audio, but I will try my best. Firstly, let me start by giving the background of Salga Women Commissioner in the province and national. Salga Women Commissioner was launched in 2010 in local government summit and established to coordinate and promote and advocate for the gender appropriate strategies and practices within members of municipalities and feed into the regional and continental processes. The establishment of Salga Women Commissioner derives from the United Cities Local Government of Africa initiative aimed at the strengthening of gender equality within Africa local governments. The strategic objective of the Women Commission is the representation of and participation of women in local government. The SWC is a mechanism to institutionalize advocacy processes as the voice of women in local government and to ensure progress at local level, as well as supporting the national, regional, global goals of women empowerment and gender equality and equity. The program of action is informed by resolutions of the Salga Women Commissioner. The purpose of the program of action is to identify and define programs, focus areas, and related activities emanating from Salga Women Commissioner resolutions with the ultimate aim to inform resource requirement and allocation. The program of action focuses on primary activities to be implemented in the short and the medium long term and will be adopted as a working document for refinement on an annual basis and for references as a reporting, monitoring, and evaluation tool on the work of the SWC at national, provincial, and municipality level. The SWC recognized that a successful implementation across all levels depend upon multi-sectoral approach involving various partners and stakeholders for coordination and collaboration. The analytic area on economic empowerment of women aims to encourage municipalities to improve and accelerate engendering service deliveries and economic development in order to eradicate poverty and reduce unemployment, especially amongst women, link women to market through collaboration with relevant stakeholders by some of the following intervention. For instance, what the executive mayor of ZFF mentioned now is very much important for the province to look at that. We appreciate for the progress done by ZFF to empowerment of the women. Now, developing database on businesses owned by women, identify business opportunity for women, as the ZF may have already mentioned, and also manufacturing and agriculture, facilitate participation of women and women structures in IDP and budget processes, facilitate participation of women in development of LED strategies. It's very much important for women, SWC, to be part of the IDP of all the municipalities across the province. Again, it conduct audit of policies in the municipalities and coordinate participation of women and women's structures in development and review of the municipal policies. Development and submit that database of businesses who owned by women and to supply chain management, as the mayor of the ZF also mentioned that, ensure implementation of 30% of women in procurement and as prescribed by Treasury. SALGA SWC recognizes the measure the state of main socio-economic determinants of women in local government. In the Northern Cape, the magnitude of women's socio-economic decision making is taken seriously in Northern Cape. Although diverse socio-economic and advancement is not uniform across the board, power to take major decisions is important for individuals, families, and acquaintances. In more conventional districts, women are still considered less privileged to take decisions inside and outside the house. There is still disparity in labor market participation, minimum role in and influence on education, nutrition, health, and political participation. Provincial gender gap and what is to be done. Promote a multi-sectoral approach that responds to the need to step up the fight against gender-based violence and strengthen the broader intervention that addresses the cause and effect of precarity, economic relations. Empower women through AVET and TVET trainings in towns and rural areas to provide for themselves. Allocate resources to vulnerable employment, youth, women, and disability, many of whom are Africans. Women farmers, youth, and men to be supported through land reform to protect job seekers, particularly women who are vulnerable to transitional sex requests. Economic empowerment of women to be prioritized and related financial policies. SALGA, the role of women in district. As protector to enforce rights of women robustly. SALGA to get more women involved in politics and empower women, increase their public advocacy measures during the nomination processes for more women candidates and councillors. Health issues such as Sffc, HIV and AIDS amongst girls and women. Now, as we are in this situation in South Africa, Chairperson, Deputy Chair, we are faced with the COVID-19. To make sure that the programs which have been put in place by the president of the country, we must assist SALGA is of the view that resources and funding must be available to implement the regulations. One, provision of extended water and sanitation took place, precautionary measures to mitigate employee health and safety risk, provision of improved access and hygiene, disinfection control on all public transport facilities. Observation, some of our districts don't take care of the sanitation of our transport, also in the ranks of the taxis. Community halls and recreation centers to be used to provide essential services such as the processing and payment of SASSA social grants. Ongoing reimbursement of taxi rents and curb the spread of COVID-19. Modernize government's system and processes to enable visual meetings and public engagement. As much as some of us which are saying in rural towns, we've got a challenge of connecting in these visual meetings. Continue to raise our awareness on GBV, gender-based violence, and high consumption of substance abuse. That is our challenge in our province. National Treasury to ensure sustainable and implementable COVID-19 programs, targeting vulnerable communities, e.g. informal settlement and all public spaces. Recommendation, Deputy Chair, from SALGA's side. It is recommended that the advocate strongly for the 50-50 gender representation in the 2021 local government election in all spheres, representing economic benefits, political, managerial, and leadership responsibility. To SALGA to continue to lobby for gender issues to be included in municipal IDP. Initiate a comprehensive research project aimed at the recognition of work performed by women in the household as formal labor, which contribute to the national economy, GDP, and the formal tax system. In conclusion, Deputy Chair, I say we are very much happy for us to be given this platform by you, Deputy Chair. As much as we know, all of us in our province, of substance abuse. As much as the president has now opened that the liquor can be sold, it's a big challenge to us, but we need to focus
Thank you, Sis Stanley. And Kosima, thank you very much. Is there anything that the Honorable Mabua want to add to what Sis Stanley have presented? Any addition from the National Chair, the Commissioner? So if none, let us allow Abengoa, Kathleen Mastor to make an input. After that, we will open the floor for about 20 minutes so that we can end at 4:30, so that people like myself that will have other meetings from 5 o'clock will be able to attend. Kathleen Mastor, Abengoa. Unmute. Press the microphone. Yes, thank you. Again, it closed again.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, all participants, everybody present, and all protocol observed. Can you guys hear me?
Clearly.
Thank you.
Yes, we can.
I'm Kathleen Mastor, and I will represent Abengoa Solar. Abengoa started operations in South Africa, in particular in the Northern Cape in 2010, with the development of 2 solar plants, which was named Key Solar 1 and Kachu Solar 1. The first solar plant, Kachu Solar 1, has been constructed close to Pofadder, and the second plant, Key Solar 1, is close to Mgcawu. That is the huge tower that you can see from everywhere. The construction of both projects started in 2012 and lasted for almost 3 years. And since then, construction concluded. The company are operating the plant for 20 years. A third solar plant started the construction in 2014 and ended in 2017. That one is called Kina Solar 1. It is also in the Pofadder area, close to Kachu. The impact in terms of job creation of each project were during the construction phase of 1,000 to 2,000 people and around 100 people during the operation phase, most of them from the area where the projects are located. Since the operation started, the projects are investing around 1.5% of their revenues in social activities, either economic social development and business development. Between the 3 projects, around 35 mil rands are annually invested in the communities. The beneficiary communities of Key Solar 1 are Kalksloot, Mgcawu, Bloemsmond, Blauskop, Karriskamp, and so verby. The specific needs addressed from the socio-economic scale, including poverty, unemployment, and personal self-esteem. In our projects, we support the local women entrepreneurs is key. Women participation and leadership go developing of caring house to trusted community coordinators responsible for program execution and reporting. Support provided includes workshops from the CSR operational coordinators and the soup kitchens that we have started in the communities. We started last year with soup kitchens that we start implementing in some of the communities, and we literally took those ladies, mothers from the community, teach them how to start their own business, get them registered, identify places where they can start dishing out food to the less fortunate people, And those people, we trained them how to do their own invoices. We trained them how to do reporting and report back via a small tablet every month on a monthly basis. That is a really great step towards developing women in particular, that we only call in our communities mothers, but women with great potential. Some examples that we have in our social side, the programs that we're running, apart from the soup kitchens, which is employing 3 people, 3 ladies preparing the food, handing out the food. We're reaching between 50 and 80 people on a daily basis, and we're reaching the old age that needs to have at least a decent meal to start the day with, and some of the people that is unemployed. We have also a huge upliftment program in Sffc, which is called Kanikla. It's an old age group. It's a non-profit company that seek for help from Mgcawu, and we assisted them with infrastructure and ablution facilities, and that is more than 50 women, old women, pensioners, that is doing the soup kitchen in Sffc. So that is the type of woman that we work hand in hand with in order to extend our hand in the communities. We also have assistant teachers in some of our programs, or not some of our programs, in the education field, where we have 2 assistant teachers in each school in the 6 communities that we're serving. We have bursary programs where we reach our students that wants to further their studies, and that is just part of the programs that we're running in the communities. We have the Women's Day Dignity program that we also do, where we started to teach younger kids at school how to be clean, personal hygiene, and especially on Women's Day, then we go there and hand out sanitary parcels to ease the burden on their poor lives. These are some of the projects that is run by mostly ladies in our communities. And I have to say the impact, the economic impact that we have, and the social impact that we have in these communities are really huge and can be seen. These are the projects, and Mgcawu in the future is developing also new solar projects close to the existing projects, which means that if the projects are finally built and operated, will mean new job opportunities and extended the actual support to the communities. That was my talk. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Catherine, as representative of Mgcawu. Honorable participants, we have about 20 minutes, of which we will give to those that just want to make an input, an observation, or a question, so that before all our speakers leave, at least that we have an input from you. Because most of us are having other meetings, but I will be here. Just indicate or just speak, because I cannot see who's indicating. Can I speak? Before you want to say something, I cannot see. Sebo, is there any indication?
Madam Chairperson, it's Leona Olivier from the...
Yes, Leona.
Thank you for the opportunity and for inviting all of us to participate in this Zoom meeting. I really appreciate it. I know you know that FAR, the Foundation for Alcohol-Related Research, has been doing extensive work in the Northern Cape now for a couple of years, and it has been widely published, sometimes very sensationally in the lay media, that there's a big problem with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or FAS, in the Northern Cape province. And it's interesting to listen to what the speakers, previous speakers have said, and my sound wasn't very good on this side, so at stages I was cut off and offline for a little while. But the link between unemployment, poverty, unequal access to education and so forth is also what we are seeing in our programs. Madam Program Director, I also want to say extremely resilient and extremely keen to work with people who are bringing hope to communities and helping them to address the problems that they are experiencing in their area. So with listening to all of this, I was thinking the plight of the women in the Northern Cape specifically, given all these challenges that they are facing, is really very severe. And they are facing a lot of hardship. The various areas that we're working in the Northern Cape province, the people are keen to work together. So thank you for this opportunity. I can just say that FAR is keen to work with you, because this is something that is extremely close to our hearts. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Liana. Long time. That we've been having some programs together.
Ma'am, don't say how long. Please don't say how long, because you just show our age.
Honorable Mgcawu, Mabatu, you may.
Thank you, Chairperson of the session, and also thank you for the opportunities. This is my first time attending such a wonderful, informative session, especially a session which zoomed into my province, the challenges that we are facing in the Northern Cape of alcohol abuse and to some extent drug abuse. But I would have loved to learn more. I've joined the meeting a little bit late, of the work done by different organizations in our province. We all know that there are some organizations which has been doing some research that the women in the Northern Cape are drinking a lot. And we are part of those women that we have been objecting it to say, look, we are a very small population. You cannot judge us on the small population. You cannot judge us of the small results that are extracted from a population such as the Northern Cape population. But we really appreciate the NGOs that are doing some work to assist in our province. But there are some areas of concern, areas of alcohol abuse by youngsters in the areas of Olifantshoek throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. One asked a question to say, what are we doing as different stakeholders in the province to zoom into that area? Kids are in the streets. We all know that kids have not been going to school, but there are those who are permanently not attending school. What is the role of NGOs? What is the role of those who are funded by government and private sector in making sure that we identify such problems and try and address such problems, and even just present to government, or not even to government, to private sectors in the Northern Cape? We're surrounded by minds that are keen to actually help. Is it not up to us to rise and say, here's a proposal, here's to what needs to happen in the province of Northern Cape, in an area of Mgcawu, in an area of JTG Olifantshoek, Mgcawu Postmansburg, Kimberley in Francisbaard, where we can zoom in where we all know that this is where the problems arises of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and rapes in this area. But I'm glad that there's this particular platform where we are going to be able to actually bring forward what we feel it's necessary to be done. Thank you, Chairperson of the session.
Thank you, Honorable Mgcawu. We really appreciate the fact that after the long meeting, you also joined us. There is another person that indicated that you want to speak, but before that, can I allow Professor Mkhize, our Deputy Minister, if there is anything that you want to say, because I know for a fact that she have at least 2 other meetings that she must still join after this one. So, Prof, I will give to you now to just a parting shot from your side. Deputy Minister.
Unmute me. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm unmuted now. Am I audible?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I just also wanted really to sincerely thank the Deputy Chair from the bottom of my heart for creating this platform, because you know, we all need each other. The women's struggle is more complex and deeper than it can be said in words. What complicates it even more, is that most of the time in democracy in particular, you get testimonies of people. If you were to call, let's say, all the premiers under one roof, they will all tell you about what they are doing for women. But at the same time, when there's an evaluation of where women are, they remain at the bottom. So this platform, my prayer is that it doesn't end today as the NCOP trail moves to another district. May all the participants remain in touch, look at what was flagged in this webinar, and see how we can all work together. Even us as the PWMSA, and of course wearing my other hat of the Women's Ministry, it has given me a foot in the house of the Northern Cape. We will follow up some of the issues that have been raised and see what interventions can we do jointly, so that if the NCOP comes back next time, they could say, out of our visit, this is how women work together and better. I just want to thank all the participants as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. It's exactly what I've said. From what we are going to gather in each and every district where we are going, we will be able to come back and say, this was our women's charter, but this is what is informing women currently at the grassroots level. And this is how our charter should look, because that is what our women want to achieve. There is someone that the address shows Sissa. So I don't know who it is, but it's you can speak and introduce yourself.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh my God.
Yes, go ahead. You're audible.
Am I audible? My name is Nandipa. Okay. My name is, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. My name is Nandipa Kuku, from the Mgcawu Union. I would like to thank first the Deputy Chairperson of the session for this wonderful session, which is also my first time to actually be part of it. The union actually also recognize the role that the government is playing also in the part of the Northern Cape. And also one of the things that came in touch in our hearts was the fact that we've seen the women who've done a great job in front of us. But the question that we are asking as to what is it that we are doing as women currently in this era? What contributions can we do also within our region? I want to pose a question or a suggestion. I don't know, and I'm hoping that I will still be relevant with whatever that was being shared in here. In the working place, we see that there is still an issue with regard to meeting the equity targets. Some of the things they are nicely put in papers, but the issue is to make sure that these things are being implemented. And we want to ask if the government can actually do something in making sure that if things are being put in paper, how are they making sure that they are actually being implemented in the form, in the way of putting maybe a scorecard, in saying and checking in each and every department, in each and every area, that these things that are being put in place, are they being implemented? To make sure that the equity targets are being met, because we still have women who are still not being progressive. Yes, we hear that on other departments, yes, they are being progressive, they are being recognized, but not all in all the departments that are being recognized. We still see men being on a higher position than in females. So if maybe the scorecards can actually be put in each and every department, and making sure that who is making follow up with regard to those scorecards, and making sure that these are being implemented. And also when we're talking about the gender equality and making these targets, for instance, the issue of disability. We still see that disabled people are still being lacking in certain departments. And as to what is the reason for that, it could be maybe the skills that are actually lacking towards those people on disability. So, you know.
You may continue. Can the other people please mute the mics? We can hear your discussions whilst there is a speaker on the platform.
Okay. Okay. When I was talking about disability, is to actually find out if maybe if there is an organization that is actually being created for disabled people, which can upskill them not only to do crafts, but also make them to be capable and be able to work in the office areas, be accountants, be administrators. Is there an organization that is actually in our region that actually can be created to groom and upskill disabled people so that they can be also marketable to actually join all the other departments? I thank you.
Thank you, Nalipa. I think particularly the one of the skilling and development of this women with disabilities, to make sure that we reach these targets within our departments and within our different bodies, something that is very important. Whilst we are not having any other indication of someone that wants to speak, I just want to ask for the last time whether Councillor Flora, you want to possibly say something. Councillor Flora, we would love to hear your voice in the Northern Cape. If it's not working, let us then continue.
Chairperson?
Yes, there you are.
It's not Councillor Flora, it's Manduma Lani official at Salga, just to indicate that she had challenges with the audio, so she won't be able to hear. She could not hear, or even if she wanted to respond. So just to apologize on her behalf.
No, it's fine. We understand that. We really understand. I think Sistani represented Salga very capably, and we are very, very, very appreciative of that. It's just that I think the Statistician General gave us some very, very good information that we can use in our district, in our municipalities, but also information that we as Parliament can actually measure progress against. Because in any case, the issue of poverty, the issue of education, the issue of access to services, to basic services, the issues of income poverty, there is the issues that we would have loved to have more discussion around about it. But whilst I'm speaking, I was thinking we are near a conclusion, but I saw Prof. Plaatjes have joined us, and I don't know whether Professor Plaatjes, you would still want to make an input. It was actually important because the Statistician General showed us the issues around poverty, around income, around the Gini coefficient of Northern Cape in particular, not specifically ZFM district. But we really appreciate Prof. Daniel Plaatjes. I was telling people that in fact we are old friends for more than 25 years, longer than the Women's Charter. So, Prof, we are still having around about 10, say 15 minutes. So if Prof don't mind, you can make it for us, and then we will have the vote of things. Over to you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson and Honourable members and colleagues and friends and compatriots. Sorry, I've been running into back-to-back meetings with colleagues in your National Assembly, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. So the only thing that I can say is that two of our staff members are in this meeting, and that we would look at what has taken place in your meeting, and with the intention then to give you inputs with regard to how we look at the issues of women and the girl child with regard to the budget. I think it's a complicated issue in terms of how budget gets done. But if you look at the social wage, especially when it comes to the social wage, meaning the social grants, the minimum basket of services that the municipalities and others provide, but also support to our children in schools and in health facilities, primary health care. Those are all different parts of it. How do we pull together the social wage for our citizens and our children, and in particular women? The problem with our budgets is it doesn't look at the gender split. It looks at, for example, the equitable share would look for you, which is an allocation that national government gives to provinces and municipalities, and it's from the fiscus. And that allocation there's no conditions attached to it. It's basically mean when the money comes to the province, the provincial executive or the municipality council must decide how that money then gets distributed across different functions. And that allocation of demographics has got to do with the number of people living in a province, got to do with the poverty levels, got to do with school-going children, and the number of people who use our health facilities in the province. And that's how the allocation gets done. And then obviously there's a conditional grants which specifically focuses on certain areas. So the point I'm making is that the budget, while one can actually extrapolate and infer from the allocations in your provincial budgets and also national budgets, it's hard to detect that it's specifically geared towards women. So you have to look to certain programs, like in health. One of the places where we can look at is primary health care and also the reproductive health financing programs. In education, it's a hard one. And clearly one needs to look at that. But going forward, depending what the staff is saying to me outside of this meeting, we could make time to send you a more informed information and details about it. Sorry that I couldn't attend in the beginning, but COVID is pulling us in different directions, especially given that we need to give inputs around how the budget needs to look like and the substantive change that needs to happen around that. The key message I have for, if you have money, you have savings, don't use those savings. Don't use it. Save your money. Don't buy those things which you don't need. Really don't buy those things that you don't need. Because we're going to get to a point where it's going to be very hard, even for those people that are working. Not only because of COVID, but also because of the slow growth, economic growth that we have in the country. It's projected that our economic growth is around minus 6%. And that's going to be very hard. The projections might go up. So I'm saying to all of you, don't spend your money on stuff that's not necessary. And clearly there are things that we need to look at. So it's going to be hard. Winter is coming, but this winter is going to be worse than any other winter when it comes to income support, our fiscal system, our resources that we have as a people and as a country. So that's my contribution to this conversation. En jammer dat ek laat is, het is maar net een van uit dan honorable.
Dankie prof, ons verstaan. Ons het ook 'n bietjie laat begin as gevolg van die meeting by die NCOP wat veel langer geneem het as wat ons gedink het, maar ons waardeer die feit dat jy as die voorsitter van die Finance and Fiscal Commission tyd gemaak het om rarig na al jou verantwoordelikhede nog 'n draai te kom maak. Ons het nog ander sessies. Ons sal dit baie waardeer as prof nog 'n insette kan lewer vir ons. Ons waardeer dit skrikkelik baie. Thank you very much. Op daai noot wil ek net baie dankie sê aan almal wat deelgeneem het. En ons sal oorgee aan raadslid Maureen de Son om vir ons bedankings te doen. Please do the vote of thanks. We will.
Thank you, Chairperson, Deputy Chairperson, Chairperson from the session. My name is Councillor Marina Besson. It's an honor and privilege to give our vote of thanks. We are thankful to Parliament for visiting us, and we are indeed blessed with the Chairperson of the session and Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Province, Ms. Sylvia Lucas, Nana, who are from Uppington. Chairperson, we appreciate the review of the Women Charter through this virtual session in our district. We acknowledge and are thankful to our protocol observed and their contributions made during review process. This was indeed an informative session, and we as women in the district are grateful to be acknowledged by the leadership in our district, play our role as women in our shares of government. As women, we will stand together to the injustice against women. And through this review process, we believe that the gaps that are still there will be addressed by the engagements. A very warm greetings from the ZF district. Thank you.
Baie dankie. Thank you very much, Councillor. Honorable participants, really, I know it's the first time, but I love the spirit that has prevailed during this engagement. Really, we could see that everyone is taking the issue serious, and it's about ourselves because we are mostly women. So we need to take this very serious. And I really appreciate that everyone tried, and it seems as, and I want to just one secret to all of you participants: build relationships as you are going through the world. Build relationships because that will assist you. And really, to say the honest truth, Prof. Plaatjes, I know him even since before democracy. And it's so nice to see that today we can still call on our friends that we've made through the years of engaging and working together. Councillor Flora, someone that we have always been working together. Stanley, my leader in the province. Mgcawu, my difficult friend, but I love her. From the NCOP, joining us from the West Coast, we really appreciate it. It doesn't mean, Nandipa, because it is lockdown, we cannot be in a position to engage one another. Really appreciate it, and thank you to the team, Sebo and your team, for all the preparations that you've made to the Statistician General. Someone that is so passionate about what he's doing, we really appreciate it. Actually, it gives us a very, very informative presentation. We will be able to use it for the rest of the Northern Cape. For our Deputy Minister, the National Coordinator, Convener Coordinator of the PWMSA, Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa, and to all of you, thank you once again. Thank you to the Executive Mayor also, Councillor Mgcawu. I know it's your first national platform, but thank you very much, and thanks for the arrangements that went with this meeting.
Thank you, Nana.
Thank you,
Bye-bye, Nana.
Thank you, Nana.
Thank you, Nana.
Thanks, Nana. Thanks.
Is die Maluleke nog daar?
Ons mis jou, Nana.
Sy staan nie, ek mis julle net so, maar die lockdown help my om 'n verskoning te hê, daarom ek julle nie sien.
I forgot to tell you that. Forgot to tell people that my mother. I'm out of single parent family. My mother's family is from Uppington, Prieska, and Daar.
Okay.
Even though I'm a Cape Townian, my blood, the origins of my blood is in the Northern Cape.
En in Noord Cape sê ons jy's familie van die geelpleitjies.
Daar sê.
Bye-bye, julle.
Bye-bye, Nana. Baie dankie.
Dankie, Mpo. Dankie, almal.
Dankie, Nana. So we can exit now, ne?
Yes, you can leave the meeting.
Okay, Mommy.